America often presents an image of safe streets and quiet neighborhoods, but our underlying history is defined by violent events that challenged that stability. We tend to treat high-profile crimes as temporary disruptions, isolated incidents that are resolved once a perpetrator is caught. In reality, these cases act as stress tests for the entire country. They expose existing vulnerabilities in law enforcement, emergency response, and national security that might have otherwise gone unnoticed. We examine these notorious cases to identify precisely where the system broke down. These failures forced the country to develop the investigative tools and legal frameworks we rely on today. For decades, American policing was a strictly local effort, with city and town authorities operating almost entirely in isolation. That isolation collapsed in 1932. When the young son of aviator Charles Lindbergh was taken from his home, New Jersey authorities found themselves overwhelmed by the scale of the hunt and intense national scrutiny. The resulting outcry pushed the federal government to take jurisdiction over kidnapping cases. This new level of centralized coordination provided the resources necessary to track the evidence that led to Bruno Richard Hauptmann. By 1995, the focus shifted from individual crimes to the threat of mass casualty attacks. The bombing of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City killed 168 people, forcing a total reconsideration of domestic security. This tragedy prompted an immediate integration of federal response networks. These systems allowed authorities to identify and arrest Timothy McVeigh shortly after the explosion. Vulnerabilities remained, however. Between 1979 and 1981, a string of disappearances in Atlanta highlighted how slowly the system responded to threats against endangered and missing youths in marginalized communities. Each of these events demonstrated that local boundaries could not contain modern criminal threats, leading to the creation of the integrated federal security apparatus used today. As investigative techniques evolved, so did the industry that observed them. The press transitioned from reporting facts to shaping the public's perception of active cases. The 1947 murder of Elizabeth Short in Los Angeles set a new standard for sensationalism. The intense, rumor-heavy coverage of the Black Dahlia case proved that crime could be a primary driver of newspaper circulation. By the 1970s, offenders began using that media reach to their advantage. The Son of Sam sent taunting letters directly to New York City newspapers, weaponizing the headlines to incite citywide panic. This created a self-sustaining cycle where media amplification fueled the attacker's ego, which in turn generated more violence. The resulting public hysteria often hindered the very police work it aimed to cover. This reached a peak with the 1996 death of John Benet Ramsey. Constant cable news cycles and amateur speculation often overshadowed the forensic evidence, turning the investigation into a permanent fixture of public debate. The true crime press had become an active participant in the justice system, with the power to steer public opinion and complicate the path to a clear resolution. To counter increasingly elusive offenders, investigators began relying on empirical data to solve cases that traditional police work could not crack. In the late 1960s, the Zodiac killer used complex ciphers to mock authorities. Without reliable biological evidence or high-quality photographs, police struggled to move past vague sketches and dead-end leads. This gap slowly narrowed as forensic science expanded. After a nearly 20-year hunt, the Unabomber was identified in 1996 through the formal analysis of his writing, which led the FBI to Theodore Kaczynski. By 2018, investigators utilized a new methodology to identify a suspect who had spent decades evading every traditional police maneuver. By uploading crime scene DNA to public ancestry databases, investigators could trace the genetic lineage of distant relatives. This process allowed them to work down the branches of a family tree until they reached a single anonymous suspect. This application of forensic genealogy led directly to the arrest of Joseph James D'Angelo, effectively ending a search that had remained stagnant for over 40 years. Undeniable biometric data began replacing human intuition, providing a path to identify suspects in cold cases that were once deemed impossible to solve. The modern investigative tools we rely on, federal task forces, forensic genealogy, and rapid information sharing, were built directly from the lessons learned during these tragedies. Yet, even with these advancements, the system is not absolute. In 1971, a man using the name Dan Cooper boarded a flight in Portland and demanded a ransom, isolating himself thousands of feet above the Pacific Northwest. After collecting the money, he parachuted into the night and vanished. No definitive trace of him has ever been found. One of the largest searches in U.S. history yielded almost no results, demonstrating that even with a massive mobilization of resources, some questions remain unanswered. These cases involve real victims and communities that continue to live with the consequences of these events. These dark chapters are more than just stories. They are records of how society has adapted to its greatest vulnerabilities. Which historical case do you find the most mysterious? Tell us in the comments. And for more historical crime documentaries, subscribe for our next episode.